We probably spent close to 200,000 that last year in just product seeding. I think this is the year of like real deep focus on.
Audio, there it is.
How are you, Paul? Like the old school, the Mac.
This was one of my original Bonnie Blue Macs.
What is that worth now?
You know, priceless.
That's insane.
Yo, you're good. So I started a timer of 10 minutes. We're going to keep this to 10 minutes. First of all, walk me through your day yesterday. You said you were filming 3 podcasts?
Yes. So yesterday was kind of crazy because since like the end of last year into early this year, we just have had like so many things that got rescheduled, pushed back, and so many things we have to get done. We started this new thing called Podcast where we have different sponsors that are just don't want to sponsor a whole season, but want to do like a series or 1 episode or 2 episodes with us where they're really trying to teach people on what their tool is. So we had a podcast, and then we actually also had we had a podcast with Reactive. We had a founders podcast, which is just me, Ankit, and Ash talking about what's going on for 2025 and how was 2024. So that was just a regular continuity episode with Chew on this. And then we had our retention podcast, which we're doing with a few different retention companies where we're basically trying to call out really cool tactics on retention. And so we recorded 3 different things. And at some point, you're just kind of like, wow, I feel like I work for a studio.
So when we would do our subscription podcast, I remember just after that 1 episode, my brain would be fried. It's not just like the intense thinking that goes into it. It's the making sure you're presentable too sort of thing. I mean, like, I don't know how you did 3 back to back.
I actually don't know either, because I think part of it started to become like, oh, you enjoy the moment. You take a break from work, and then you realize this has become work. I actually don't know either, because I think they go through this really interesting like cycle of emotions.
I went to CES a week and a half ago now, and the whole goal of going out there was just meeting people, doing some fun interviews, and talking. I was feeding files to my video editor along the way, and she was just like cranking them out. The challenge was, 1, I got a little sick coming back from there, but 2, like my brain was drained, and so the challenge is like keeping up with that content. For you, is a lot of it like just putting the trust in your team. How do you build out this content portion of your life now?
We have like now 7 different content writers. We don't believe in like, oh, you just do this content and you just do this. Everyone has to be well versed at everything. So it's really cool. It's like bandwidth becomes less of an issue and more about like, oh, cool, I like this person's personality on this and tone on this and perspective on this. So I have like my thoughts, and then it kind of gets like, goes through this machine of different people touching, looking at it, kind of tweaking it. And it comes out to being like, oh, wow, this is like really, really well done from our perspective, at least. And then we kind of take it from that angle.
Like the focus of the content? What do you mean by content?
So I'll do a voice note that gives all the focus of the content. And then people will work on refining it to become like, well, is this marketable? Can we spin this into a better angle? Can we put in a better narrative around this? Can we add subtopics to this? So I'm giving the theme a lot of my main bullet points, and they're kind of making it so that it's marketable.
By the way, you're great at voice notes. Like sometimes I'll text you and you send me like a voice note back. That feels like an unlock for me. That's like a life hack, I feel like.
That is, I mean, even today, like I've started to get my wife on it, and like she now is voice notes too. And so like now our text thread is actually just voice notes. But I'm a big fan of it because I just feel like text sometimes I'm not able to express my thought fully, and I'm leaving way too much up for assumption, or I'm feeling like it's way too short. There's so many mini breaks I have in between calls. Typically, I'm like a 7-hour back-to-back to get back guy, and some calls end early, this and that. Almost everyone I respond to is in voice note form.
That's brilliant.
Apologize and start with like, hey, I'm so sorry I'm sending you this, but keeps me more efficient. So I try to be very selfish about that because it really works for me.
I think to me, that's like using the Calendly type unlock, like rather than bounce times back and forth, they're like, hey, here's a link, just look and see what's open and grab a time. Feels a bit impersonal at times, but also like it's wildly effective.
I fully agree. I'm also like been testing out 2 different Fireflies and Otter and these AI note takers, even utilizing that, sending that into ChatGPT and saying, hey, deeply summarize this and like look at also my to-dos and make sure that I'm able to like work with my AI. I feel like I'm starting to at least unlock some of the elements of like anything administrative or to-do-ish needs to now be processed from outside of me. And I kind of just need a robot that carries it out.
It's super smart. And I think it's one of those things, like sometimes I'll get a long email and I'll feel overwhelmed with replying to it because it's like, oh God, I got to put some thought into this. But if you can find a way to be more efficient, maximize, I mean, it's just about time, right? There's only so many hours in the day. So on that note, you've got Obvia 80 million. You've got all the different things you guys are doing. Like, where's your time going into in 2025? Where you decide to focus?
I think most of the time right now is going into like, how do we make Chew on This something that is turned into a really good company, grew a great amount last year, to also making sure we're still enjoying it. I'm like becoming like the chief fun officer there now and just being like, hey, I want to make sure that we're still having fun because that was why we did it. And then on the Obvi side, I think we've really dialed into like, all right, this is the year we go really deep at just doing what we do best, not trying to do all these other things, such as like last year we spent so many months trying to figure out TikTok. And then we spent so many months trying to figure out influencer seeding. And like, we know who we are. We're ad buyers. We're very good at content. Let's not try and figure out things we don't know. And we probably spent close to $200,000 last year in just product seeding, and I can't even tell you if we made 10K back in revenue. I think this is the year of like real deep focus on what we know.
I saw that tweet from you the other day where you're saying how it has to be meaningful, like where people put their time in the marketing channels and things like that. I also saw something from Ash where he said he's trying to make it so the business doesn't rely on him as much. Do you find yourself doing that too? Are you kind of putting yourself in that position?
Yeah, I think so. I think the main reason is like, there is a endless amount of opportunities that are coming our way from incubating other brands, helping other brands, or advising, or the SaaS piece and this and that. And I don't think we want to be able to do it all. I think we just want to be able to have the option to say yes without feeling like we're going to do a disservice to Obvi. I think you only feel that when you realize you're not like the glue that keeps things together.
Yeah, that makes total sense. All right, so we're wrapping up on our 10 minutes here. Tell me two things I want to know, like, where do you see yourself end of this year? Like, what are your big predictions or big goals for the year?
Big prediction of this year is we scale back Chew on This to being less about revenue and generating money and being something that we are really having a lot of fun doing. And I think that would make me look back and say, wow, that's awesome. So I don't care if we do more than the 3 million we made last year, or we do less. Like, I think it's more about like, did we have fun doing it? And then number two, I think from a general sense, like I want to be able to get excited about something new. I feel like something is on the horizon. I don't know what it will be. 2023, 2022 was Chew on This and all of that. Obvi has just kind of been along this ship, but I think there's something else 2025 that's going to get us like extremely excited again, because otherwise, running a business becomes a little bit mundane.
Yeah. Listen, hey, I have an idea for humanoid fight league. I think people are going to love watching humanoid robots rip each other's heads off. So if you want to get in on that with me,
I'd love to do it. I'd love it.
People love watching people fight, and they love watching BattleBots. So let's make humanoid robots just kill each other. That's my thing that is like rent free in my brain. All right, last question for you. A lot of people admire you. I admire you. Who do you admire? Like, who do you like, God, I love what this person's doing.
I think anywhere wise, I would definitely still say my dad, going into his mid 60s and, the global CFO for the largest accounting firm in the world. And so like, when I look at that and like him not taking a day off, still travels sometimes 8 days, 12 days a month. So it's pretty crazy to see that. The sky's the limit. But I think from the industry standpoint, I've really been enjoying Nick Shackelford just be a dad and manage like he's also a customer of ours on the gas community end, where we bring him really cool SaaS companies to work with, and I see him execute that flawlessly, and then I see him building Breeze, and then I see him doing so many cool things, and I talk to him like probably at least every 2 days, just like, hey, got this opportunity. And he's like, all right, I'm all over it. Like, here, like the day I needed a connection to Checkout Champ founder. And he's like, hey, it's in your Telegram waiting in 2 seconds. And I'm like, geez, like he's
a machine. The guy is an absolute machine. I agree with you. It's a great person to admire. All right, Ron, that's our time. I'm gonna let you go back to work. I truly appreciate you taking the time here.
I appreciate this. This is awesome. I'm excited to see the series play out.